All right, going live in three, two, one. This is the Anna Hummel Factor. It's episode number 10. And good evening, good morning, whatever time of day it is for everyone out there. How are you doing, Anna? I just brought you up.
I'm doing very well. I feel like I'm a lot more put together than last week. I felt like last week I went a little off the rails in terms of a lot of the things that were on my mind, but I feel like now I'm kind of back in my groove, back in the swing of things, feeling a lot more stable. So that's good. It's good for everybody involved.
That's good. So you and your friend all happy and everything?
Um, I mean, again, like kind of just where we left off last week, I've just kind of accepted that this is just going to be kind of a different sort of friendship. So we didn't really talk about things. These aren't like things that are really reconcilable in terms of like you hurt my feelings and we have a conflict. It's more of just like different perspectives on life. So you just either, kind of either accept that person as who they are or you either walk away. But she's been my best friend for 30 years. So I'm definitely not going to walk away, but it's just I've kind of just realized it's a different type of friendship now. So
Hmm.
but yeah, everything's good. We're on good terms. No one's fighting. No one's upset. So it's all good.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
I I wouldn't know. I obviously don't know all the details, but I from last week it seems like maybe I know sometimes friendships do divide and go in different directions, and sometimes even split apart even after such a long period of time. So I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting that would happen, but I mean,
Of
I've seen.
course it could, but I think that we've invested so much of our lives in each other that well we may never be like there may be there has been years in the past where like we didn't talk for a year because I was abroad and we would like message or email, but it was never like there's been times where I didn't talk to her on the phone for a year or I didn't speak to her on the phone for 6 months. But when we do talk, when we do get together, it's always like, we're back where we were before, so it's never awkward or odd or anything like that. So and it's not even like I'm trying to create more distance. It's just I have a new understanding of, how I've changed as a person and how she's changing as a person. And that's okay. And that's it. But things are good. I just feel I felt like last time she had left that very morning and then we did the show, and so I was still kind of thinking about all that shit. Whereas now it's like, a week has passed, I'm back in the groove of things and I'm feeling really good. So
Have you talked to her since then?
yeah, we've texted a little bit back and forth briefly, but she told me she was back. She made it back safely, and then we talked a bit about what we were going to do over the weekend, and brief, but it's not like anything that we're on bad terms, and I feel like she didn't experience any of this. Um, she didn't experience anything that I experienced mentally. Like for her, things have always been the same. But for me, things are now completely like I had a change of mind and heart over the week that she was here, but she didn't experience any of those things, if that makes sense.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
So,
Well,
yeah, I internalize a lot of stuff.
I mean, as long as everything's worked out, I guess it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's more like I had to work it out with myself, if that makes sense. Like it's something that I had to just be like, all right, well, these are the new parameters of the relationship because I I changed as a person. And how do I not reconcile, but how am I going to deal with, certain things that maybe she does that I don't agree with, so that sort of stuff. But, it's all good. It is all good. How are you and your best bud doing?
Okay, I guess. Yeah, we just exchanged messages like you and your friend did. That's about it.
Okay.
Nothing, nothing much. The just the I did set up a. I will say that I started using text messaging with him very recently, and I will say before that we used he did this, I did this, probably about at least three of my affiliates did this, my radio stations. We would communicate through the old AOL Instant Messenger. We used that up until the very last day when they cut off the service.
When
So
did they cut off the service?
I would say about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So
Oh, so you were
uh,
still using AIM? Like,
yeah,
that's
yeah. Well,
funny.
we were all using it. Yeah, a lot of us were still using it. In fact, I had a friend from Clear Channel where we communicate every once in a while as well.
Oh,
In
that's
fact,
funny.
we used it, and there were messages that would pop up that would say, as it's close to the end, they would say the service is going to be shut down on such and such date. And then finally the day came and it was like it was still working. And I was like, maybe they changed their mind. And sure enough, the next day it was completely shut down. So no more service. But it was kind of interesting because we had to figure out how to communicate with each other.
Sure.
And I recently started using, like I said, text messaging with my friend, and he and I are using the Google application, so a template. So it works similar to using the instant messenger because we're using it on our computer, not on a phone. So
Mhm.
the one thing though that I found myself being subconsciously concerned with was as I'm typing the message, I'm thinking to myself, they can see me typing on the other end, which was what AOL used to do.
Right.
I had to remind myself that this doesn't do that.
Right.
That so every time I was typing, I kept on thinking that someone was seeing me typing when they actually weren't, which is kind of
Mm.
I guess I'd used AOL so much that I still thought that was going on in my head, which is kind of strange. But I did tell that to someone else, and they said that certain certain texting services will have that option still in place. So
Gotcha.
I didn't know that. So, but anyway, would you like to go look at your question from last week, see what kind of response we
I
got?
would love to. Yes, that sounds great.
All right, let me bring this up here. All right, there we go. So, of course, I didn't actually proofread it good enough. It says, how people do you interact with face to face every week? It was supposed to be how many people do you interact with face to face
Hmm.
every week? So, we got only had 3 responses. 23% said less than 3. 66% said between 3 and 10.
Hmm.
And, and more than 10% was more than 10 was 10%, I should say. So,
Okay.
uh, how do you feel about the responses? It's okay, I guess. I mean, it seems kind of average. It wasn't really a standout question so much. I mean, it was just kind of average question. So I
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would have been interested to see how many people like have minimal contact with other human beings face to face. And that's something that I'm really intrigued by because of the society that we live in and how technology has advanced. You can essentially live, without seeing other people face to face, almost completely, if you choose that, obviously. But I just think it's so interesting that some people do live like that because it's so antithetical to how I live that I'm just really intrigued by it, and I wonder, you know, like I wonder what those people look like because the thing that I look forward to the most is spending time with people, I guess. Not all the time by any means, but like on the weekends, I'm like, I already have something lined up on Saturday and Sunday, like going to my buddy's having like a not like a crazy party, but like people are coming over to his house to hang out. He has a pool, whatever. So we're doing that Saturday, and then Sunday I'm going kayaking with a friend, and that's kind of how I organize my life, at, like my extracurriculars and stuff, like who I'm gonna hang out with, what we're gonna do together, sort of thing. So to think that some people don't do that at all, I'm meeting more people kind of like you that are maybe more introverted, or they don't really like to get together face to face. They're more comfortable doing things digitally. I just find that to be really fascinating because the things that bring me the most joy in my life are other people, if that makes sense. Like face to face interactions, hanging out, stuff like that. So,
right. Well, I wouldn't classify myself in that category per se. I'm actually kind of locked into a position right now. It's not really like part. It's I kind of worked my way into it. It's almost it was like you were implying that I wanted to be like that, but I'm not. I don't want to be like that. So the
okay. But
the
I mean, still, you made
I made a conscious decision to do
choices,
this.
yeah, and
Yes.
decisions to live that way. I understand now. It's kind of like, okay, now the business is running. You got to keep the machine moving. I get that, but I mean, you did have to take steps to move in that direction in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm just, yeah. So
The
I
way-
met there's a guy I work with once a week who is kind of like that, and prefers to work from home and not meet people face to face and stuff like that. So talking to him is really interesting because you know, obviously I'm reminded that not everybody is like me. You know, there are people that are very, very different and prioritize different things in their life. So I think I'm more intrigued than anything else. You know, it's not
Okay.
like I'm like, oh, you're living wrong. Totally not what I'm saying. I'm just intrigued because I'm thinking in my head the things that I get most excited about are seeing other people like and doing activities together.
Okay, well, okay. I'm just saying that it seems like you're implying that I don't want to see other people, and I didn't say that. I'm just saying that I'm living a lifestyle that because of the business, not because I necessarily choose to have that. In fact, recently I was thinking about why not just stopping the whole thing and just
Oh wow.
going back and like when I was like 17 years old, 18 years old, and just taking one of my Mustangs and just building a brand new engine like I used to do. Like I used to build the engines for my cars and
Hmm.
just going out for a ride, having fun. So maybe meeting new friends, meeting new people.
I
So
think that would be great. Yeah. And I'm not saying that this is because you've said multiple times that, you know, you're not super content with your schedule now, and it's pretty crazy. Um, but nevertheless, like it is how you live and you're making it work. Like you're making a living, you know, it's not like you're going crazy and smashing windows in. You're a very functional person and you're making it work where I think I would be jumping out of a window. Like I'd be going crazy. So I'm just really intrigued with people, even if it's not their first choice, the fact that they're even just pulling it off, I think, if that makes
okay,
sense. Yeah.
that's fine. But I just want to make sure. Well, I'm repeating myself that I'm not,
Yeah, I
I'm not,
get it. I get
I'm not,
it. You've
I'm not.
yeah, you've mentioned.
I don't want to be considered a person that doesn't want to see people. I have no problem seeing people. I will admit though, like the idea of having what they call Zoom calls kind of annoys me because the idea of when I always like the idea that when someone calls on a telephone, I always had the luxury of or the I guess I don't know if the luxury is the right word, but I didn't have to worry about people seeing the way I looked, so I didn't have to prepare
Sure.
myself. So, and now that
Mhm.
that this video stuff is becoming more popular, that means I'm gonna have to get a camera and talk to people, and that's like, okay, that I don't want to see because that means I have to prepare myself, and I'm just lazy when I'm at the house. So,
Sure.
like when I go out, so now put a nice shirt on. Depending on where I'm going, if it's like the first day, like when I was teaching, it was the first day of class. I'd wear a tie, nice shirt, button down,
Hmm.
shave myself a little better. Nowadays, since I'm by myself, I basically look like a homeless person. So I'm kind of
Okay.
because I don't have to worry about presenting myself to anybody. So
Right,
uh,
right.
I have the foot long beard, my hair's tied back in a
A foot
ponytail.
long.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, I've been obviously the only people that get to see me are the Instacart people, and then when occasionally I go to like a store or something. So that's about it. So I think I scared one person. There was
Why?
two kids were looking for their dog. And they were in the house, like one of my neighbors. It's not too far, not too close, but not too far. They came up to the hill and they one of them was asking the neighbor across from me if they'd seen his dog, and he wouldn't come over to me to ask if I'd seen his dog. He kind of like ignored me. Then he came back
Hmm.
with another kid, and the other kid had no problems walking up to me and said if I'd seen his dog. I said nope, I haven't seen it, but if I see it, I can let you know. And the other kid would still just he wouldn't even look at me. I don't know. I guess maybe I look so grotesque or something. I'm not sure, but I was kind of rude, I thought. I mean, I didn't say I'd never seen the kid before, but he just would not look at me directly in the face for some reason. So
How old was the kid you said?
I didn't, but there was two kids. One was probably about maybe 10. That was the one. That's the one that would talk to me. The other one was probably maybe I would say 15, 16 years old or so. He was taller. So
And he's the one that didn't look at you?
yeah, he wouldn't even look me in the eyes. So and
I mean, you never know what people are going like he could have autism. You know what I mean? So don't take it personally.
I'm not. I'm just curious as to why he did it though. But anyway,
Hmm.
so. Let's go through the answers here. I can't see the first one. It looks like just random letters. I'm trying to get my mouse. Fortunately, my mouse seems to be stuck again. Okay, here we go. Got it. Okay. Dingo, the introvert says, as an introvert, I take massive offense to that question. Hmm.
Why?
I guess he doesn't like to talk to people, so I don't know. Let's see. The next one, I don't know what that says.
I'm not. It has nothing to do with like good or bad. I was just
I could
curious.
I think he's just being joking. I think he's joking.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if he was like really upset.
Yeah, I don't think so. Um, I'm a cod. Is that what this is? I'm not sure if I want to. I don't know. Maybe it's something else. Sandeep. Uh, I'm not sure what the name is. Says yes, interact with people very often with a big smiley face. Uh, okay, Kiss fan. Kiss. I'm sorry. What's his name again? Kiss best fan. He comments a lot. He interacts with the peds in San Andreas. Yes, I guess yes if they count. So let's see. Nope, no responses that really matter. In America, we just have to wear masks.
Hmm.
Most of these aren't really making too much sense. Some of them are, but I make a video on how to download mods. That's not what we're asking. People on
Mm-mm.
home and food seller only. Okay. And no responses there. I wish it was more, but parents barely let me out of my house. Did we see that one before? That one sounds familiar.
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar to me.
Okay. And weight, something is 99%. I have the power. I can increase any option by 1%. Okay, so he's just joking around on that one. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, like I said, it was an average question, not a bad question, just kind of an average question. Nothing that really stood out. So,
Right.
but I would say, yeah, if I would be if it was before I started working out at home on a more permanent basis, I would say my answer would have been more than 10 on a regular
Oh,
basis.
okay. Right. When you were going to a place of occupation.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, going to school, right there, I always had on average 20 students in my class. So
Right. There you go. Yeah.
and then when I was working at WTOP, like we had, that was a huge newsroom. We're talking like at least 25, 30 people on a regular basis. And then the sales department, I mean, there was people I interacted with all the time. So, I mean, we're talking upwards of like 50, 60 people in a single day
Mm.
Clear Channel was a lot of people, but they were always laying people off. So it was like dwindling by the time I left. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I guess, yeah. What was your answer? I forget. Did you say one? I
Oh,
forget.
more than 10. Yeah, the most. I mean, I see
Yeah.
people at work every day, and then I have like a lot of extracurricular stuff I do on the weekends, and I always make sure. I mean, again, I'm kind of like an ambivert, I think, because when I go out, I feel like I'm extremely extroverted. Um, I like to. I feel like there's always a part of me that wants to be the entertainer. If I like being, making jokes, making people laugh. I like being made to laugh. I like being part of the conversation. But when I have an overload of that, then I want to go into my hidey hole for a few days, and I don't want to talk to anybody. Like there'll
Mhm.
be days where I could go 3 days without seeing a single person and feel totally fine. So I feel like I kind of swing. That sounds weird. I swing both ways pretty hard. And I never really used to be so introverted before, but I feel like as I'm getting older, I really find myself being like a both in the extreme. Like when I'm out like at a party. There'll be tons of people. I love talking, and then after the party's over, I don't want to see anybody for 24 hours. So
So
that's
you
kind of
went
how
at
I look.
usually when I went to a party, it was usually meeting people, well, people I already knew, and it was just making small talk. I used to go. The one thing I always liked was the WTOP non-employee Christmas party, where they had the Christmas party for the employees, but at the time it was owned by the Mormons. So, which was who was that? The company begins with a B. I can't remember what it was now, but basically they did not allow alcohol, so they had the employee party where everyone was not allowed to drink booze. So we had the non-employee alcohol party where everyone could come and drink booze as much as they want. Uh,
Hmm.
there's now they since then they switched owners since I left there. So, but I remember the non-employee party was always the fun one. So, a lot of people would come there, and I get to leave. It was just we could let her hair down, so to speak, and just it was more casual than the work environment. So I always like those. Um, I guess the other get-togethers once in a while, when I first got my brought my Falcons over from Australia,
Hmm.
we go to different car shows and my friends would show up and we'd talk in there. And people, of course, people had never seen the car before, so they were like, "What is it?" And I'd have to explain it to them. So there was a lot of interaction there. So the but yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, when I was younger, I was mentioning this recently.
Yeah.
You ever Rocky Horror Picture Show?
You know, I never saw it. I had friends that would go to a showing like once a month. They would dress up, they would do the things, but I have no interest in musicals. But go on. Yes, I know what it is.
Okay. Have you ever seen it though?
No.
Okay. The
Yeah.
I was at the time I was probably like 17, yeah,
Okay.
16, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Um I was a diehard fan of the show. So my friends, in fact, Trevor, my friend Trevor, he and I would
Yes.
go. So and he's probably the only friends that I remember. I had probably like at that time 40 or 50 friends that we go every week. And we every week we'd always end up leaving and going to either to a restaurant or someone's house and crashing. We would be wake up someone else's house the next day. One time everyone came to my house and everyone's, but the weird part when they came to my house, the house I was living at the time, this is my place my dad and I were renting, was very small. So the idea of having like 40 or 50 people inside was really bizarre because it was just not enough room.
Hmm.
And for some reason, we all just sat back and we watched the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from 1971.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it? Well, oh, that one's called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate. Whatever, you know which one?
Okay.
Not the newer one, but the older one.
I didn't
So
even realize that there was a difference. Charlie and the
yeah,
Chocolate Factory versus Willy Wonka and the Chocolate
yeah,
Factory.
yeah. For some
And the
reason,
original is Charlie.
the original is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I said that
Willy
wrong.
Wonka. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
The book is called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but they for some reason they put Willy Wonka as the
Gotcha.
title. So, and it was like so weird because it was the 1971 movie, and we watched the movie, and everybody who was normally very loud and just having fun, we just got real quiet, and we just watched the movie from beginning to end.
Uh
So funny. I was just so
huh.
bizarre. I remember that. And I would honestly say I could probably, except for Trevor and maybe one other person, I do not remember any of the other people, and I probably wouldn't know any of them if I ever saw them. It's been that
Interesting.
long. So, but yeah, I was always going out with friends, and I remember it seemed like every other time we got together, there was always some woman that I never met who would just break down crying because she had a depressed life and everyone had to console her. It's like always a different
That's
woman every
rad.
other week. I don't know why it was like that, but it was just so bizarre. There was always some young woman that was just in some very depressed state and she'd just start crying after the show was done. I don't know. And there was always her
Well,
friends there to
that's
help.
so good.
I don't know what that was all about. It just seemed like it was a regular occurrence though, for some reason. And we'd
Hmm.
sing songs and everything. So, I mean, that was, I don't, like I said, except for Trevor and one other person, I cannot remember any other people that were there. Um, well, there's one woman I remember, but I don't remember it. I haven't seen her in years anyway. But I will say this: the one person who other than Trevor,
Yes.
there was a friend. I would call him a friend because we hung out a lot. His name was Scott. I won't say his last name, but
Sure.
I he and I went on LinkedIn one time and I actually found his profile and I was surprised to find him. He was like living way up in the middle of the Midwest somewhere. And I saw his picture and sure enough, it was him. He was a lot older. It was funny to see him. So I contacted him and it was one of these very rare situations because I legally changed my name back in 1988. So
You
he's
legally
one.
changed your name in 1988?
Yes, yes. And he's like one of the few people that actually know what my name used to be before I changed it. And I don't tell anybody unless I become really good friends with somebody. I won't tell anybody what my name is unless like we're really, really close friends or really, really close. Because that probably by then, we're obviously we're good, or if I'm dating a woman or something, that's
Hmm.
like that as well. So, if we're really close, I'll tell the person what my name used to be. But the idea that I would actually use my old name is just so bizarre. And I actually had to say this is such and such. And because my legal name is Zoom Zoom. And he was like, and
Your legal name is Zoom Zoom?
yes, yes. And he does not know that I changed my name because it'd been that long since we'd seen each other. So I say, hey, remember me? I changed my name, and I didn't say anything back, but he did friend me on LinkedIn, which is kind of cool. So, but
Why can I ask why you changed your name? You don't have to tell me what it used to be, but why did you change your name?
I changed it to make people laugh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. And did
yeah.
you dislike your birth name?
No, no, no. The only no, not at all. But I don't like after I changed it though. I did find it kind of insulting because people would ask, what's your name before? And I would tell them. And then what would happen is I would have people purposely, whether because they're trying to annoy me or because they just didn't feel like calling me by my current name, they would purposely call me by the name I used to have.
Uh,
And so that's why I stopped telling people what my name used to be. The
okay.
but the what that it didn't make me hate the name, but it made me hate hearing the name because I got tired of people purposely doing that stuff. So eventually I just stopped telling people what my name used to be. It was,
Right.
and so yeah, it's not that I hate the name, but I did get annoyed for a while with people calling me that after I legally changed it.
Right,
So,
because you wanted to be known by your. So, what do people usually call you? Like Zoom? Is that
yep, yep,
okay?
Zoom.
Okay.
Yep. You didn't know that? We've been working this
No, I
long.
know that. I'm just because it says Z Moon Child, and then you just said it was Zoom, so I didn't know,
Oh,
like,
okay.
you know what I mean? Like, I know it's Zoom, but like that's what I call you. But I didn't know if like people call you Zoom or people call you Z Moon Child or like
Well,
Z or.
okay. The Z Moonchild is because that's the channel name, and I didn't want the people who are watching this not knowing who I am. So the
Okay. So, but like your friends will refer to you as Zoom.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
everyone, yeah. Yeah. When I started my channel, the only reason I put Z Moonchild on there is because I just created the channel just so I could argue with people in the comment sections. I wasn't going to create videos,
Got
and
it.
my email address at WTOP was zmoonchild at WTOPnews.com. So I said I'll just use that since Zoom was already taken. And back then you couldn't choose your name if you couldn't choose something if someone already had it. This was back when in 2006 when YouTube was still pretty new. So
Right.
and so I said okay, no one's going to have that. So obviously no one did. So I just used that, and it became. And if I'd known the channels were going to become popular, I would pick something different. So I didn't know.
Right.
So and it stuck with that. That's all. Then but anyway, that's why I put my name on their Zoom plus Z Moonchild, so people who are watching this will know that it's me and not someone else. That's all.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Got it. Um, for the question this week, I was talking to some people yesterday about marriage, and I mean we have extremely different views on marriage. Um, I personally don't. It's not an end goal in my life to get married. I want to live like I'm married one day. I do express that often, that that's the goal, is to be with somebody, but I don't need to get it on paper. I don't need it to be um I don't particularly like the government involved in my affairs. I understand a lot of people, do it for tax purposes and things like that, which is, I get it, but it's also unfortunate that you're doing it because you're just you're trying to get around taxes. It's not necessarily about you love somebody. I mean, obviously it can be about both, but I'm not a big fan of marriage, and I'm also, I think, extremely paranoid about feeling trapped. My parents were married for almost 30 years and got divorced. And it was very destructive. It was probably like the most, I mean, it sounds ridiculous because I know people go through much worse. I know people go through war and people go through, the kids have cancer. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm extremely lucky. But I would say for me, it was probably like the single-handed most traumatic event that I went through, just because I was an adult and I was living at home at the time, and I had to see, what my dad was going through, and
Hmm.
he was an absolute disaster. So, and I'd never, and when you kind of like, I don't want to say I idolized my father, but somewhat I did. I thought he was like a strong, rugged, like alpha male type, and to see how weak he became, was kind of disturbing, because he was falling out of a 30-year relationship and didn't know what to do with himself, and couldn't eat for 2 weeks, and he lost a shit ton of weight, and and he was crying every day, and I mean, like, I'd never even like really seen my dad cry before, so it was like really disturbing. And I think that, in addition to a few other events and people that I got to know and talk to, I had an ex that was married, and he was not a big fan of marriage, obviously, because obviously he was divorced at the time. But I just have come to the conclusion that marriage is not the end goal, and that I've been what's the word, primed, groomed, influenced by society. I think we all have to think that that's the end goal, that's what you should want. You should want babies, you should want to get married. And I'm starting to realize, I'm a pretty unconventional person, and that, not everybody's going to fit in that box, and I don't necessarily need to get married to be happy. I see a lot of people who are married and they're miserable. A lot of them feel trapped. A lot of them feel like, you know, I would leave, but it's just too much of a pain in the ass with the divorce. It's too expensive. She's going to take all my money, whatever the case may be. And to me, like, the last thing I want to feel in my life is fucking trapped. So I have changed my views on marriage dramatically in the last 5 years or so. I don't want to get married. I don't think. Does that mean I'll never? No, but like as of right now, it's certainly not on the list of things I need to accomplish. So I'm kind of interested to see how other people think, because I feel like, as we get more progressive and people are getting, there's obviously more women in the workforce now than there ever has before, which delays things. Women aren't getting married at 18 to whomever, straight out of high school. Women are going to college, women are having careers, which is also sometimes, problematic, because they realize they want a family and then they're like, oh shit, I'm 35 and I don't even have like a boyfriend, so it can also, it's a double-edged sword. But nevertheless, I am curious to see what the listeners think about marriage, and if that's something that's a goal for them. Do you want to get, I guess you could ask, like, how do you feel about marriage? Like, do you want to get married? I am married. I don't want to get married, or,
Okay.
something like that.
So how old were you when your parents, if you don't, can I ask you when
Of
your parents,
course. Yeah, I'm
how old were you?
24.
Really? Oh, okay. It's
And a
interesting.
lot of people are like, oh, well, you were an adult, it's harder when you're younger. But I'm like, but also when you're a child, your parents shield you from things because you're a child, and they try to protect you, and they make sure, you're not around when shit's hitting the fan, or at least good parents are. But when you're 24, I mean, my dad was like confiding in me like I was a friend, and I was unable to handle and digest some of the things he was telling me. It was really disturbing. So, yeah, I mean, everybody gets fucked up from shit, and I would say that was probably the most traumatic few months of my life, because I was, I mean, if you would have asked me 2 weeks before my mom left, how do you feel about your parents' marriage? I remember going to dinner with a friend, and I told him, I said, if I can have a marriage half as successful as my parents, I'll be happy. And 2 weeks later, my mom walked out. So, I mean, this hit us like a ton of bricks. No one was expecting this.
Hmm.
So it was, it wasn't like there was a lot of fighting in the home, and it was kind of obvious that they wanted to get divorced. It was none of that really. It was more of like a kind of a silent thing, that my mom was kind of going through, and I didn't really know about it until it happened, and really neither did my dad. So I think from that experience, I mean, that's the major one. But then, I've had other influences like the ex-boyfriend, and just me kind of growing up and thinking differently about things, and thinking out of the box, and saying, okay, do I want to be married, or do I think I should want it? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've asked myself that question when it comes to different things in the last 3 years. I go, is this something that I actually want, or is this something I think I should want? Like, do I want kids, or do I think I should want kids? So that sort of thing. So I've spent a lot of time trying to unravel those two things, because they're very different. So I'm curious to see what the listeners think about that.
Okay.
Sorry, that was.
How do you feel about marriage? How do you, hold on. Jeez, I'm not proofreading at all. Hold on. How do you feel about marriage? Yes, I want to get married was the first response. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. What would the next response be?
No, I don't want to get married.
Okay. Nothing. Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
And then I guess you could say, like, I am married
Okay.
as a third one, since some people already are.
Alrighty. So we got here. Married. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Any other responses? I want a divorce.
um, you know what? I would actually kind of like to know. I guess it would be two separate questions.
We can
Uh,
ask two. We can ask two separate questions.
okay.
We can ask one right after. I've done that
Okay.
with.
Okay. Then maybe just how do you feel about marriage? Yes, I want to get married. So I guess people who are already married obviously can say yes, and then no, I don't want to get married. And then a separate question would be, for those who are married, are you
Okay.
happily married or are you not happily married? Because I feel like so many people think that marriage is the end goal, and for me,
Mhm.
happiness is the end goal.
Gotcha.
And right, so it's two separate questions. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can ask the
Okay.
second one. And then we'll
Okay.
go. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good. No, I want to make sure I'm proofreading. Yes, I want to get married. No, I don't want to get married. I'm already married. Um, I don't care. The usual response. Okay, is that good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, post that. Okay, now we'll go back and post another question. Now we have to figure out how to phrase that one. Okay, how do you want me to phrase that?
Like, if you're married,
Hmm.
so obviously this is pertains only to married people. If you're married, are you happily married, and then just yes or no.
Are you are you happy with the marriage? Are you happily married?
Happily married. I
Is
guess you
that
could say yes, no sometimes. I give them some space, like for, you know.
happily married? Hmm. Sounds kind of awkward. I guess that'd be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you are married, are you happily married? It sounds like it'd be worded a little better. Let's see. Yes. No. Um. hmm.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay, that's a good one. I like
Yeah.
that one. Anything else?
No, that's good.
If you're married, are you happily married? Okay. Oh, we could put on this one. I want a divorce.
Okay. Yeah. 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 That's actually, well, I guess that would kind of go with no, but yeah, maybe. All right. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I know they could be married. They still don't want. Maybe they're not
Yeah.
happily
Sure.
married. They
Sure. You're right. You're right.
divorced. I want a divorced. There we go. A divorce. Did I spell that right? I think so. Okay. They look good.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's go back to this. Get back to the community tab. Give me a second here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got 5 votes already. So on the first one, no, I don't want to get married. Nobody's saying yes, I want to get married, and 40% with I don't care so far. So we can come back to that.
Okay.
So you're are you is this I mean was this divorce was this so it's about 10 years ago. Is this
Yeah. Yeah. 10 years ago. Mm-hmm.
is it still affecting you?
I mean, I think it always will because of just I mean, it changed me as a person, like most experiences do. So I'll never be the same, which is fine. Is it something that like plagues me every day? No, no, it's not like something I like wake up or I have like nightmares about or anything like that. But when I think about back to it, I mean, probably up for I haven't cried about it in a long time, but I would say even up to like 7 years after, I could think of a memory of, you know, a, a rough seeing my dad in a rough place, and it could, bring me to tears just thinking about it. Um, so
I'm sorry.
that,
I'm actually going to say I'm sorry you went through that. I didn't realize it was that traumatic. I didn't realize
oh
it.
yeah, yeah, it was really, really bad because I really idolized my parents' marriage. So when it broke apart, it it was actually really eye opening for many reasons, namely that I was so certain that they were solid. And when they separated and then divorced, I said, well, I was 100% certain that that was solid. So what else don't I know? Like, what else is false in my life? That was a house of cards. And I was so certain, and I don't want to say like, oh, I had hubris or anything like that, but I was like so confident that would be something that would work out, and they were not going to be a statistic. And when they became a statistic, then I go, okay, well, what else don't I know? Because I thought I was 100% sure on that. And it made me question everything in my life.
Wow.
Everything I'd question, everything I thought I was certain about, I would double check. Well, you were so certain about your parents' marriage, and that was you were totally fucking off base. So let's go back and see what else we may
Uh,
think we're certain about, but is not the case.
I say something about the technical. Your microphone is good, but it seems to pop low. I should say it's not popping
Oh,
in. It seems like it's like the input seems to drop down every once in a while in a kind of an
is that
odd
a little
way.
bit better?
It's hard. I can't tell unless you keep on talking. It's like it's
Mm,
sporadic, so it seems okay. We can. I just want to say it's sometimes your voice just seems a little bit lower once in a while. That's
okay,
all.
got it. Let's see
I'm
if I
not
can
sure if
see.
maybe you're holding the mic in a different
I
way.
think I
Maybe.
was holding it weird. Yeah, sorry about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's better now.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So, yeah, so I think that's kind of the lesson that it taught me is nothing is certain and always question everything. And I questioned my other relationships, I questioned my friendships, I questioned my career choice, everything that I thought I was certain about. I kind of went back over again and go, well, listen, we thought that this was 100% and it didn't work out. What else should we be questioning? So it kind of put that in my mind, and that never left me. I'm extremely skeptical of everything. So I think that was really the I don't want to say the genesis, because I always think I always questioned things, but not to the degree I do now. Like now I'm an extremely skeptical person of everything, even of myself or of what I think I know. I go, well, do I really know that, or is that just something I heard? Like, so I'm always double checking my work. I'm always double checking resources. I'm always trying to get to the truth, and even at the end of the day, I go, well, this is the evidence I collected. Who knows if it's the truth or not? But this is what I've gathered. So I feel like I'm just a really skeptical person, which I don't think is a bad thing. And I think that a lot of people become more skeptical with age, just as a function of time and maturity. So but certainly the divorce was something that ignited that in me.
Wow. To be honest, I must say that I am somewhat surprised that someone who was 24 years old would be so dramatically affected by a divorce by your parents. I'm
I
not.
was living in the house, and my dad was not well, and
I
it
mean,
was
okay.
yeah,
Let me rephrase that. I'm not trying to be rude. I really am not.
no,
What I mean is, it seems like you're at the age where most people tend to get married. So a lot of people I know have got married at that age, like in their early 20s. So,
sure.
and I'm thinking to myself, it's that I mean, I maybe the relationship was I don't understand the relationship between your dad and yourself. So obviously it was very very close. So that's why it would be so traumatic, and so I can't relate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm still extremely close to my dad, um, but I was living in the house when they were splitting up, and they weren't hiding anything from us, and I thought that everything was fine, and things were not fine, and I didn't know that. My dad didn't know that, and then when my mom left and she was living with my grandma for a while, like I just saw, I mean, my dad took off 2 weeks of work because he was unable to function. He couldn't eat. He was just crying all the time. Like the man was just, I mean, it was just really, really sad to see. I think that was the part that affected me the most. Not having my parents together was sad, but I think seeing my dad struggle, and just feel like, I mean, he felt like he couldn't breathe, like someone was stepping on his chest. My dad moved to this country for my mother. He was South African. He was living in Israel. He moved to the States because he got married
Hmm.
and moved here, and then it was just like his whole world just completely crumbled. And my dad didn't invest in friends. My dad didn't really have any friends. It was like my mom was like his whole life, and he was kind of I don't want to say a hermit, but just didn't really care to interact with anybody. I don't think he was the happiest person on the planet, but that's all he knew was just, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I don't really. My dad never went drinking with the boys. Like, he never had like friends. He never went to bars. Like, he never did
Okay.
any of that shit. So
So you refer to me as introvert. It sounds like your dad was much more introverted than I am. The only reason I'm introverted is in a sense is because I'm working so much, working myself to death. I mean, I was the things you're talking about going to friends with bars and bars and things. I used to do that all the time before when I had more time.
yeah. Well,
So
my
I
dad used to do that when he was younger, but as he kind of settled into his, especially his 40s and 50s, he just kind of, and again, it wasn't a healthy way to live by any means, but he just kind of settled into being very routine, not being really, he was a curmudgeon, he was just kind of like grouchy all the time. And he was really unhappy. And there were a lot of cracks in my parents' marriage that, as a younger person I didn't see. And just as anybody, my dad didn't even see them. So, things that were kind of beneath the surface that I didn't really understand were going on, but that were. So when and again, a big part of it was me living at home and being like seeing everything. And that was really traumatic. And also just seeing your dad, because the way my dad was acting was completely out of character,
mm,
so when it's kind of freaks you out when you see someone who's really strong and confident and he's like falling to his knees crying, you're just like, whoa, like that was really disturbing.
right.
So that was, I think, the most jarring part of the experience. But my dad now is like such a completely different person, far more compassionate, has lots of friends, make sure he's going out and doing activities. Like it taught him to be different and to live differently. So he's certainly a much better person, but it's just unfortunate that he had to go through so much pain. But
Right.
such
Are
is
your
life.
parents are your parents on speaking terms? Do they speak at all?
Not really. I mean, yes and no. My mom had open heart surgery in October. And my dad, I was talking to my dad, and he was like bitching about my mom about something, and I just started crying. And my dad's like, "What the fuck's going on?" I'm like, "Mom's having fucking open heart surgery," and that hit me like a ton of bricks because that came out of nowhere too. So then my dad like backs down. He calls my mom. My mom's remarried and everything, and they had a really good talk. And it sounds like they put a lot of things to rest before the surgery. I think kind of in the event that something went wrong and like my mom died. So I feel like they wanted to put things to rest, like if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was really really nice to hear that they had a really nice talk and stuff. But now it seems like my dad is kind of back to his old antics of I don't want anything to do with that woman. I never want to fucking see her again. And because my dad goes through like peaks and valleys where he's like, what, I forgive your mom and it's fine, and what, I'll always be nice to her, and if she needed anything I'd be here for her. And then you talk to him a month later and he goes, I never want to fucking see her face again. So I mean, he's still, even though he says he's over it, and he is in a large way, like he's nowhere where he used to be, but I don't think you ever really get over something like that. I mean, a 30-year marriage and then someone walks out on you and then like pretty much gets with someone else almost immediately, like, that'll fuck you up.
Right.
So
Oh, your mother started dating immediately? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
that could really be that could really
Again,
hurt
like
somebody.
when I told you I was certain about things. I'm not certain about anything. I don't know if there was infidelity. I don't think there was, but again, like I don't know. I would have never thought of my mom to be the one that would cheat, but I honestly think that she was probably committing emotional infidelity. Like,
Mm.
so okay, if you all right, let's get into it. So my mom ended up marrying a guy she dated in high school before my dad.
Hmm.
So what's really weird is like I knew this person
But
20 years, like I knew this person, I don't want to say my whole life, but my mom would reference him when she was married. And he came to the house one time to like visit, and my like when my parents were married, I was a kid, I was probably like, I don't know, 14, 15, something like that. This
is
guy comes to
let me ask. No, I forgot. I was gonna say. Go ahead. I forgot. I actually forgot. Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have like a memory of this guy coming to visit, and he's like, "Oh, mom's friend from high school," and it was fine, and like my dad didn't care or anything. And he came over, and I remember like we were all like we had a pool, and so we were like outside, and so, just all catching up with her old friend and stuff. So I always like knew of him, and I had met him in my childhood. And then when my mom left, she was we lived in San Diego, and my mom was going to Orange County all the time. And she just kept saying she has friends in Orange County. Orange County's like an hour north of San Diego. And I was like, why is she always going to Orange County? But he lived there. So I'm pretty sure that they were communicating before she ended up separating from him, my dad. So I think that had a big influence on her where she had something kind of like lined up. Now my mom is like very happy with this man, and to be honest with you, this guy's like a much better fit for her than my dad. You know, as much as
Oh,
painful as that is to say, like
let me,
like
I remember the
yeah.
question I was going to ask. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
now I remember it just popped in. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, 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 go.
is your mom an American? Was she an American citizen? I can't remember.
Yes, yes. She's from LA.
Okay, okay, go
Yeah.
ahead. That's why because you said
Yeah,
your
yeah.
dad.
My mom's from LA. My dad's from South Africa. So
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much the story. You know, she's with this guy. She's really happy. They've been married for I don't know 5 years, maybe something like 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad my dad's had a girlfriend for about 5 years, the same woman. So that's good. But yeah, it's kind of bizarre. Like this guy was around when I was a kid, and I mean, my mom dated him when she was 16. So yeah, it's kind of fucking weird.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, if you want to hear my perspective on divorce, I will say this: I did propose to a woman one time. That didn't it
right, I
obviously
think you told me
never,
that.
did I? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, but as far as divorce goes, my parents also got divorced, and Trevor's parents talked about getting divorced. And I'm bringing him in because he's a close friend, obviously. But
Sure.
it was kind of interesting because when I met him, we were 10 years old, and that's all they talked about was getting a divorce. But they never got a divorce. They ended up both dying. Well, his mother died first, and they were still married when they died. So his parents are both dead now. But
Oh.
but basically they never got divorced. Yet my parents never spoke of divorce, and it was almost like yours. It was pretty quick. So,
Mm-hmm.
but see that I can't relate to what you're saying, and I apologize. I really do apologize because I don't mean to downplay what you're saying. You know, I'm really sorry you went through what you went through. But I was 16 when my parents broke up and started the whole divorce process, and it didn't affect me in the slightest. I was pretty much already I was mostly living on my own anyway, and my parents were so involved in their own lives that they didn't really focus anything on me anyway. So, like I said, I'm really not trying to downplay what you're saying because I can't relate to that because it was just so bizarre to me that sometimes when I hear you say that, because my sister said the exact same thing. She was 7 years younger, so she was about 9, and she told me several years later. I didn't know this because I wasn't really talking because like I said, I was pretty much self-sufficient. I was hanging out with friends all the time, barely
Mm-hmm.
at home anyway. So, my sister told me years later that it was devastating for her, and I wish I had known that at the time because I would have been there to probably try to be there for her. I didn't know it was that devastating. So it's kind of like the way you're describing your situation. So,
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different. Everyone processes things differently. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I honestly think it was probably worse as an adult just because nothing was hidden, you know? Um, and I just saw it kind of unfold, in front of my eyes. And again, like I told you, I had told a friend literally 2 weeks to the day before my mom walked out that I was like, I hope I have a relationship half as successful as my parents. Like I really idolized it, you
right.
know? And then you're like, have I been idolizing a lie? Was my whole childhood a lie? Were you guys just playing house? Was my mom just faking it, faking happiness until, we were adults? Like, were you miserable the whole time? Like, there were so many questions about the relationship because growing up, I was just like, oh, I want to be married like my mom and dad. And then I was just like, well, was that a fucking front? Like, what's the truth anymore? I was so certain about it and it crumbled. So I don't know what the truth is when in regards to anything anymore. I felt like I couldn't trust my judgment. So I just questioned everything. So I think that's, and mostly just seeing my dad just so devastated. But, you
Did
know,
you did you have someone that you were it was able to help you through this, or did you work it on your own? How did you do you mind me asking that?
no, not at all. Weirdly enough, I was really, I don't know if I was embarrassed. I don't like don't like drama. I don't like I didn't want to put my private life on display or anything like that, because like I'm more than happy, especially with radio, to talk about my private life. But when it comes to stuff that's actually really fucking serious, I don't talk about it at all. Like when my mom was going through her surgery, like I don't think I said anything to anybody until it was over, because I didn't want people asking me, "Oh, is your mom okay?" I'm like, "What if my mom fucking dies?" Like I don't need people asking me, "Is your mom okay? Is your mom okay?" Like I'll let you know when she's fine. You know, sort of a
Right.
thing. It was the same sort of thing. I didn't tell my best friend until 2 months after it happened, and I was just kind of looking for ways to escape, I think. But I remember telling myself, and this was like really important, and I'm pretty proud of myself for this. But when it happened, I remember telling myself, like, this is when people start, like, this is when people get habits, bad habits. They're in a dark place and then they start drinking, or they start doing drugs, or, they start going to parties and having promiscuous sex, like whatever. I was like, this is when habits are formed, when you're looking for something to fucking reach out, like reach onto and hold on and kind of support you, to kind of numb yourself. And I told myself that that was not going to happen, because at the time I was kind of partying a lot. There was a lot of drugs. There was a lot of alcohol. There was the opportunity to have a lot of promiscuous sex. And I just told myself, like, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to experience this like natural childbirth, is what I remember telling myself. I'm like, you're going to experience this like without an epidural. You're just going to fucking ride it like a wave, and you're going to just deal with it. And it's going to be painful, but you will be so much better for it than if you try to like pick up drinking or start doing excessive amounts of drugs, whatever the case may be. So I didn't touch anything at all.
Oh, okay. So but you didn't have anyone that actually helped you, though, is what I was asking. Did I miss
For the
something?
beginning, not really, but that was my own fault, because I wasn't really reaching out to people, because I was kind of scared. Because, well, I remember there was the guy that I told that, oh, I hope I have a relationship half as successful as my parents. His parents just got divorced after 30 years. And I remember we went to dinner, and he was like a friend. I think he kind of had a crush on me, but it was like, whatever. Nothing happened between us. So he asked me out to like, oh, let's go get dinner. And I'm like, okay. So we go eat dinner. He tells me, yeah, my parents are getting divorced. But kind of like you, he was just like, whatever. Like that was his. But he's like, my parents haven't lived in the same room. They haven't slept in the same bed in like 10 years. Like, so, to him, it was obvious. For me, it was completely different. So
I
I
got
think
you.
I kind of confided and used him as like a confidant. Um, and I remember one night, like I got kind of drunk, and someone said something like mean to me at a bar. And I just remember completely unraveling, losing my shit. And I knew that that would happen. Like, I didn't want to completely emotionally unload on someone, because I knew that it would be really scary, because I wasn't okay. And so I just was violently crying and like wailing and being like, my life's, my parents are getting divorced. Like I don't know what's going to go on. And he was so freaked out that he just like ended up leaving. And I don't think I ever saw him again.
This is the friend that you think had a crush on you, and you went out a couple of times with? Is this the same person?
Yeah, I think I scared the shit out of him.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I scared the shit out of him, and he just wanted nothing to do with it. He was just like,
Gotcha.
okay, well, I'm gonna go. And it was actually really fucked up. Now that I think about it, I'm kind of mad, because I was drunk, and I couldn't really drive, and he just like kind of like took off because I was crying in his car or something. And I ended up having to like I think I slept in my car for a few hours to try to sober up, and
Mm.
went to like a convenience store it was like a CVS that was open. And I went in there and like got some food and water, and then drove home like at 4 or 5 in the morning. Like, it was fucking not okay.
Right.
But I just remember completely unloading on him, because I was keeping it all in, and it just came out. And he was just like, what the fuck? And then I was kind of scared that that would be the reaction, that people would just be like, what the fuck? Because I didn't know how to really express it without it being explosive, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like if I started talking about it, I would just absolutely completely lose it. So I just didn't really talk about it. So
I gotcha. I like I said, I don't mean to downplay what you're going through because it's obviously very hard, and
yeah,
I'm sorry you went through that. I really
that's
am.
okay. Hey, that's life, man. But
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm just trying to tell you that when, like, for me, and it wasn't the same situation like your friend at all. For me, for me, it was a completely shock. Oh, not really a shock.
Oh, really?
It was a surprise like yours. It was like all of a sudden just came out of nowhere. My parents said they were getting a divorce, but for me, it was just like I guess I'd separated myself so much because I was just turning into a young adult at the time that I just didn't. It really didn't bother me. It was just that it was just okay. It was like whatever. And people came up to me like I remember family and friends would come up to me and say, you know, so sorry going through this. I was like, yeah, well, yeah, it doesn't really bother me. It didn't bother me.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
everyone's different.
yeah, yeah. And so, and it's like I said, if I'd known my sister sounds like she wants something like with what you went through very much.
Yeah.
Obviously, much younger. And like I said, if I'd known at the time she was going through that, I would have probably. I feel bad that I didn't know at the time, but we like I said, I was just kind of separated from the family to begin with. So, and I probably would have, see if I could help her out, consult her,
Hmm.
and try to help her through it. But yeah, it is kind of you're right. People do it, deal with it in different ways. It's so weird. I mean, not weird, but it's just so interesting is probably the right word. How you dealt it with so differently, the exact opposite of what I did. I mean,
Sure.
it's the and even to this day, it's never bothered me. So
Okay.
it's and yeah, I keep on saying that. I feel like maybe I'm downplaying. I'm not. I really am not. So what you're saying, it's just I just find it very interesting how you and my sister were very
Different.
very much
Yeah.
very much so. And I mean nowadays for you, is it a I mean, you said you're still really you were crying up to like 7 years after. I mean, does it still hurt you that much nowadays? I'm just curious.
No, no. I mean, I can get through talking about it and not cry. I mean, I'm sure I could probably there, but no, it doesn't plague me like it did. It's just kind of now a part of my history. But no, no. I mean, again, it's changed me forever. But it's not like I wake up and I think about it and I can't function or I cry or it's nothing like that. So
Okay, well that's good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like with anything that's traumatic, a death, a divorce, a breakup, time certainly helps, obviously. Time is the only thing that helps you heal. So, I can talk about it openly and it doesn't. I remember even, a couple of years after it happened, I would start telling a friend about it and just burst into tears again. So, but now that's not the case. I'm kind of, time numbs you to loss and grief and stuff like that. So which is good because then that's you adapt and you otherwise you just be fucking crying all the time from shit that happened to you like 50 years ago. So thankfully that's not the case. But
Okay.
yeah, I learned a lot and I think it made me certainly a more compassionate person. Like a lot of good things came out of it too. So
You only have one sister, right?
just one, yeah.
Okay. I'm curious. Can I ask how your sister how she handled it?
She hates my dad, so
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
yeah, they don't have a relationship at all. I was actually trying to broker that deal a couple weeks ago, and my sister refuses to speak to my dad. Much like you and your sister are really different, and I had different experiences. Same with me and my sister. She's 4 years younger, but my dad like she treats my father like he abused her or like molested her or something. And the worst thing that my dad did, which wasn't good, but he would talk about my sister's weight sometimes, and that fucked her up. And she just can't seem to forgive the fact that like her dad you know said that she was overweight, which, okay, yeah, my dad could have been a lot more sensitive, but my dad grew up in South Africa and they didn't know how to deal with shit like that. Like my grandparents would make fun of my aunt for being fat, in the house. So my dad just kind of grew up with like, you call it when you see it sort of shit. And my sister always had body image issues. I've had body image issues. And my dad, I guess, was just like, why are you so fat? Like, why can't you lose, weight or,
We
usually
talking
would be, yeah, shit.
just to her, or to you too? Because you're.
No, I mean, I was never really over. I started becoming a little chubby when I was a, a not a late, an older child, so like 10 to 12, I guess.
Oh, okay.
My dad saw that I was kind of getting a little pudgy, and he never called me fat, or not that I remember. But he just said, "We are going running. Like, you're gonna start fucking running." And I remember hating it at the beginning because I was fucking fat, and fat kids don't like to run. So we started running, and I just hated it. At first we'd do like half walk, half run, and then 75% run, 25% walk, and then I was running the whole thing, and then I started noticing my time was dropping at school during the mile, and that was really exciting. And I was pushing harder. Then I was beating my dad, and then I got really thin, and then I was joined the track team. Like, it all changed,
Are you
but
on? You were in this track team too? Wow. Okay.
yeah, yeah, I did track. So, I mean, everything kind of changed. And I was kind of like the golden child sort of thing. So, I mean, like, by the time I was, you know, 13, 4, say like 14, I was thin.
Oh,
So yeah, I mean, and then I was never fat or chubby ever again, but my sister was. So, and you know, she didn't respond to things the same way that I did, I guess, and she never really had an affinity for my dad even from childhood, which is kind of weird. Um, but yeah, then after the divorce, my dad gave my sister full range to be like, "Fuck you, dad. I'm never speaking to you again." And she didn't. My dad has seen her twice at like 2 funerals, and that's it. And it's really fucking sad. And I actually had a conversation with her about him 3 weeks ago, and I was like, my dad's birthday was yesterday. He just turned 66, and I told her, I said, listen, like, you're gonna miss out on having a father. I mean, if he, hit you or molested you, fine, don't speak to him again. But I mean, the man fucking said not nice things. I mean, you need to fucking get over it. And she just refused. So, what can we
yeah.
do?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, obviously, she needs. Yeah, I mean, she needs to work that out on her own. I mean, you can't really
Yeah,
force her to do. I mean, I'm just. It's just my opinion. I mean, you can do
I
whatever
agree
you.
with you.
But I mean, if she doesn't want to talk to somebody, I mean, that's ultimately her decision, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was trying to kind of persuade her, obviously, just because I think she's going to regret it. It's really sad. What if 20 years from now, dad's on his deathbed and she's just like, I know, I just fucking pieced out for 30 years. Like, it's really sad. So, but what can you do? Like, I'm trying to avoid regrets, and I'm trying to help other people avoid regret, because that's the worst feeling ever. And she just doesn't give it. My sister is extremely immature. She's gonna be 30 in like 2 weeks, but she acts like she's fucking 17. So
oh, okay. Well, I mean, a lot of people are like that. So, I mean,
yeah,
I mean, I was probably like that for a long time myself. I mean, my dad is probably like that as well.
I mean,
So,
I feel like my sister is like at a clinical level of immaturity, but maybe that's just me.
oh, okay, okay. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know. I know your sister, so
Right.
yeah. But okay. I mean, as far as I mean, it sounds like your mother's happy. Your
Yeah.
dad's
She
somewhat
is.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're the one that's still having the issues then, right?
No, I'm actually great. I have a good relationship with both of my parents.
Oh,
I'm
I mean,
getting
as far as the divorce goes, I mean. So,
No,
I,
no, I'm good. I'm good with it. At the end of the day, I'm glad my mom, made herself happy and didn't stay in a relationship for her kids, or, my dad or something. And my dad's doing fucking awesome. My dad's very happy now. So it took a while to get there, but like my dad's doing really great. And I'm doing really great. I feel like the last thing that I'm trying to do is to connect my sister and my dad. But my dad really wants to have a relationship with her, but she's just refusing. So, like you said, what can you do? So,
yeah, yeah. It's okay. I mean, is okay. Okay. So Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I guess we touched on everything there I can think
Yeah,
of.
sorry, that was just kind of like a deep dive, one emotional fucking topic to another. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to be so like depressing and Debbie Downer, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I as far as my give you an idea, but my parents were the kind of the opposite, I guess. Well, my mother never went out with anybody ever again. Um,
Ever?
so- Ever. So
Not even like
she
dated date?
never nothing.
Did
And
you ask her
she was
why?
she was devoted. She was extremely in love with my dad. So I uh, I don't think she could. And she would they wouldn't talk to each other for a very long period of time. And I was actually surprised. My dad telling me once in a while that he actually would talk to her once in a while on the phone, which was like it really threw me off because they never ever talked. And all of a sudden one time he was telling me that they were talking on the phone, which really threw me off.
Is your
So
dad remarried?
yes, he got married about 20 years ago. So uh, yeah, he married the woman he married is kind of funny. Like I would say I don't know if my dad is like on the atheist side pretty much. I say
Okay,
pretty much because I'm not sure he has these like beliefs that he talks about once in a while, which I guess could be called spiritual in some ways. But
sure.
he married a born again diehard Christian conservative woman, which is pretty much the exact opposite of what he
Whoa.
is. It's pretty funny. She diehard Republican, and my dad's more on the Democrat side. And the uh,
Interesting.
the really funny part is like she's I would say I did have a slightly negative look at people on the Republican side like I do with people on the Democrat side now. But she's the exact opposite. She's very caring and very giving, and she'll do anything to help anybody out. So,
Okay.
I mean, she was
Interesting.
so yeah. It is kind of funny how
And they're happily married and they're obviously making it work.
yeah. Actually, it's been more than I think they got married in '97, so it's probably I think it was '97.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's been a while. Yeah, because they bought their house. I think that's when the house they live in now. I think that's when they moved into the house. So yeah, it's been a while. So it might even be earlier than that. Yeah, but they're happy. I mean, I've never seen them argue. My sister said she saw them argue once, but aside from that, yeah, they get along great. So I mean, every time I go over there, she's always like I said, she's extremely friendly. So she never talks about her religion. Apparently, my
That's
dad
nice.
made a deal or something that she won't talk about religion when I'm around. So I it's and I don't talk about not non-religion things, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
because apparently she's the kind of person that would try to convert people to being Christian.
Oh no, a
So
converter.
she is also a whenever they have the supper they put the hands together and they do their prayer and I'll accommodate it. So yeah, I don't say anything because she has two sons and I've only met one of them over all these years. I've only ever met one of them and he's pretty much like her, very caring, very giving. So it's very interesting to meet a family that's so. It seems like they're so connected because my family seems so disjointed compared to hers.
Right.
I mean, like I said, like when my parents got divorced, I was like, it didn't bother me, and I was like pretty much on my own, and I wasn't even really talking to my parents that much at that point. So it was just basically my dad and I living in an apartment until I graduated high school and finally just started living on my own.
Mm.
So, and I always found it the interesting thing is, for my life here, but when I hear people talk about when they were like 16, 17 years old, their parents would tell them what to do. And I was like, really? My parents didn't tell me anything at all. In fact, they just let me do whatever I wanted to do. I already owned a few cars at that point and I was working in shops full time. And even though I was in high school, I was still working in the shops at the time. So I was building engines and things like that. And so yeah, it's just it didn't even occur to me that like my parents should be telling me to do anything. Yet people are always telling me that their parents were saying that they had curfews and things like that. And I was like, really? I mean, to me, I don't know what it was like for you, but it was like for me when I was 16, I was essentially an adult at that point. So
Oh no, not me. No.
and I was just living on my own. It just basically I'd see my dad once in a while when we were at the apartments we were living in.
Right.
They did have a house, but when they divorced, they sold the house, and we lived at cheesy. It was an efficiency, so we slept in the same room essentially. So
Oh
it was kind
yeah.
of
Well, it's interesting to hear everyone's different experiences with
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And like I said, I'm really sorry that you went all through all that. I mean, I've
Oh,
gone I've gone
Yeah,
through hard things, and and the way you're describing, I've gone through things that are very hard for me, but
sure.
and so I can relate in that way, but not directly to the same thing. So
Sure, of course, of course. Everybody's different and goes through different shit, and I like learning about different people and their experiences and how they dealt with stuff and how that compares to me, and I think that's kind of the flavor of life. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows all the time. You're going to have some tough times, and what matters is how you get through them and how you become a better person after them, and maybe try to avoid either the same mistakes yourself or avoid, help other people avoid those mistakes. So, but I just thought it was interesting because the people that I work with on the show I did yesterday, they're both very religious people. One I would consider a Bible thumper for sure. Like he's a 35-year-old virgin. Like he won't have sex until he's married, sort of a thing. The other one is more chill, but certainly, a man of God, say. Um,
well, I mean,
so
can I comment something? I'm not saying I agree with that idea of not having sex, but I also don't believe in having sex with people I'm not in love with. So
yeah, I mean, I don't either. I mean,
I think people have random sex is just that's just kind of, I mean, they can do
yeah,
what they want.
I've
It just
never done that.
that
I'm
turns me off a
actually,
lot. So
yeah, I'm extremely conservative in that way, but I mean, I'm not again, I don't believe in God. I'm not religious, so I don't need, to be sanctified by God to in order to fornicate or consummate a relationship. I don't care about that. I'm not in. I don't. I'm have issues with casual sex for other reasons because I just don't, especially for women, because I don't think it's good for their psyche at all. And if you understand, female psychology, probably the last thing that you should be doing is having casual sex, just because I'm all about staying in front of my psychology and not because women get attached when they have sex. So if you know that and you have sex with random people, then you're probably going to get attached to them, and guys don't give a fuck. So not all guys, but a lot.
the,
So anyways.
I,
Mhm.
I was gonna say, well, I don't know if you want to hear any more, but the when I used to go on dating services, I haven't done it in a while, but it was kind of funny because the women I would meet would say that the men always wanted to have sex. That's all they wanted to have was sex. And I was like, well, and they were surprised to see I was the exact opposite. In fact, I had women that would come on to me and say, I want to have sex with you. Or no, they'd say, they do the opposite. They'd say, I don't want to have sex with you. And then I spend the night, and then they would say, okay, I really want to have sex now. It's like, it's like the,
Yeah.
in the middle of the night, she would tell me, okay. And I said, no, I don't do that. I don't know you. And she would get really turned off. I had a couple of women actually tell me to leave because of that.
Yeah, well, you fucked with their egos. That's why, because they're under the impression that men want to have sex, at all times with everything. So the fact that you turn them down probably hurt their feelings.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Um.
The, yeah, I mean, it's, and if you call them, I wouldn't even, I don't know if you could call it a relationship because we only went out a few times, but it just, those ended very quickly. So, uh,
Yeah.
I will say one of them did call me back though.
Oh, she did.
Didn't bother calling her. I left my belt there at her house, and she said, "Oh, you." She called me up and said, "You left your belt here. You need to come pick it up." And basically she wanted me to call her back and talk to her again. So I was like, "Yeah, no." I said I can leave the belt behind. It's not a big loss. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did find these women. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not. I don't want to say anything bad about women, but it seems like a lot of these women remind me of my female cat when she'd go into heat. The ones I would
Oh,
meet,
whoa.
they would. I don't know if you've ever seen a female cat go into heat, but they pretend they don't want it, but they really do want it.
Okay.
And the women I'd meet on these dating services were a lot of
We're
them were like that.
similar.
Not
That's
all
fun.
of them. I had some nice, I'd go out with some of them quite a few times. But as far as like some of them, they were like, yeah, I don't really want it, but and deep down they really did want it. So,
Yeah.
and those are the ones that turned me off because I didn't want that. I just, it has to be very special to me. It has to be someone I care about, someone I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to just throw myself at anybody. It's like, it's not me. So,
Sure.
but
Sure. That makes
anyways,
sense. I get it. I respect that.
so, all right. Would you like to go back to our question and take a look at it? Our
Yeah. Let's
question.
do that before we head out.
All right. Let's take a look here. I'll bring up question. The first one we asked, how do you feel about marriage? Got 121 votes. Here we go. Yes, I want to get. How do you feel about marriage? Yes, I want to get married. It's 31%. I should have started with the 51%. No, I don't want to get married at 51%. 31%. Yes, I do want to get married. 4% at. I'm sorry, 14%. I don't care. And then finally, 4%. I'm already married. So, didn't you say? Was it you or was it someone else? Maybe it was someone else that said the number, like the first result is the one. No, I think it was someone else. So we were doing a question. I think I was doing a question that they always thought that the first answer would always get the most results because it tends to be that way. This is one of those where it did not work that way. So, that was it you? I don't think it was.
No.
Okay. First question or first comment in court. I don't know what that means exactly, but the second one, I'd love to be married. Being single is a catastrophe. Okay. How do you feel about the what we got here?
I don't know. I think it's kind of what I expected. I think less people want to get married these days.
Okay. Let's see. And the next one, if you're married, are you happily married? And we got yes with 55%, no with 23%. I want a divorce at 14%, and sometimes at 8%. So let's look at the comments, see if they're okay. I'm not married, but I have 6 girlfriends. Okay, this is an inside joke for the game. Okay, and you probably aren't familiar with this, but in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the main character CJ can have technically he has up to 7 girlfriends in the game, but you can have 6 additional girlfriends throughout the game as well, and you can date them and take them out, things like that. So that's what he's referring to. Okay. Next one down, Alejandro. Most of the people seeing this are not married. Okay. I guess he has some sort of insight that I don't have. So. Okay. So yeah, I can't answer this question since I've never been married. Based on my parents, though, I'd have to say it's like 50-50, I guess. My dad didn't like his marriage. He's the one that initiated the divorce. He didn't want anything to do with my mother. So, but he's now happily married. So,
okay.
So I like I said, 50-50. My mother would say, I'd say, I don't know. Since she was deeply in love with my dad and never dated anyone else since then, I don't know how I'd say classify that. So I don't know. I can't answer for them, but it's based on what I'm saying. My dad would be half. No, he was not happily married. And you want to hear something even more funny, I guess you could call it. My dad was so unhappily married with my mother, he actually remembers the dates that myself and my sister were conceived on. That's how much he hated my mother. So
whoa,
so that's how little they had sex, is what I'm saying. So
oh god.
So I forget what I think he told me what day it was for me. I forget what it is now. So but yeah, anyway, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of what I expected.
Okay.
It's kind of what I expected. If you're married, are you happily married?
Okay.
I mean, I'm glad it's over 50%. I feel like maybe a lot of people just, I don't know if a lot of people just randomly answered. We don't know if they're actually married or, whatever. But hopefully they're being truthful.
This is obviously it's not scientific at all. I don't know if I said this before, but the answers to this are a combination of my viewers plus random people that YouTube decides to throw this question up to them. I don't know if you know how that works exactly. So
right, I think you've explained it before.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So all right.
Yeah.
All right. So cool. And the other people that do that, they obviously it would be nice to have a more scientific poll, but we're not going to get that through this or any other means I can think of. So, all right. So I guess that's it for anything else you'd like to say with the viewers?
That is all. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll go ahead and end this.